What's up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to today's trade recap and market analysis episode. Today is Thursday, August the 14th, and we took one trade today, and it happened to be a pretty good winner. And what I'm gonna do here today, simply because I am starting to get a bit busy, these next 2 weeks I will have a lot of work to complete, so we're gonna start heading away from the entire market analysis segment to more of just focusing on the trades which I've taken. But keep in mind, this is only going to be for these next 2 weeks. After those 2 weeks, we should be back on track with the normal schedule. But just for these next 2 weeks, please bear with me in that sense. But let's dive straight into it. And first of all, what I want to say and speak about is the news and talk about how the news actually helped me succeed today. So today, as you can see, is PPI day. And some people they say don't trade PPI day, and that's completely understandable. PPI can result in big moves, but I use PPI to my advantage, and of course it works differently with other strategies, but I'll just show you guys how it worked with my strategy here today. And PPI is basically the only significant news that we had here today. We did have these news here, but nothing really significant that would affect the market to a high extent. And if you take a look at what PPI did, PPI came out very unexpectedly, or not necessarily unexpectedly, but the result of PPI led price to drop very sharply, creating a big imbalance in the market. And if you let's take a look, around 151 ticks on ES, which is very significant. Now, let's just check on the footprint to see like the volume within that 730 candle right here. Yeah, if you take a look, there's not much volume at all. It's pure selling imbalance for majority of that candle. Is that what? Yeah. So for majority of that selling candle that we saw, it was primarily just selling aggression. And when PPI or when a news event creates that big of a move, it provides a great opportunity for us to capture a follow-through move. And there's two ways to go about this, right? How we expect, right? Typically when this news comes out like this, we expect the day to potentially follow in the footsteps of the news. But to do that, we might want to rebalance where price had initially started prior to news before creating and moving on with the day. Because when price makes such a move like that, simply with market mechanic perspective, we want to rebalance and position ourselves at an area in which news doesn't have, how do I explain this? It puts us in an area of proper value and pricing in terms of where the market's at, in terms of the actual market valuation. News splurged price down very extremely. Now, provides a great area to buy. Institutions may be buying because they saw such a sharp sell-off, right? So a lot of buying pressure to rebalance up to these highs where those PPI highs were. So I know this, I did not explain it the best way, but essentially, typically when we see these large moves from news, price typically rebalances and takes out the highs or lows that resulted from those news events. So we have these lows, we have this high, all resulting from that news. Or not this low, we have this low and this high. And if you take a look, we took out those lows and went all the way there, but that's not really as significant as what we see here. And what we saw was that after this big move down, post-market open, we saw very aggressive buying pressure occur. And you can clearly see that here. Lots of aggressive buying pressure. But here at this point, this was a thing that stood out to me and the thing I was actually able to capture. We saw price moving up, and honestly, A lot of people might just think that price is going to retrace into that 50% retracement area or within this region or whatever, right? People are going to expect price to retrace and then continue to dump. And that's a fair assumption, but if you take a look at the order flow, let's go to that 9 o'clock, 9:30-ish time. You can see that we have major liquidity up here at 6490. And if you take a look where 6490 is, would you look at that? That essentially captures that main liquidity portion of this PPI highs, right at this 6940. That's the most significant level. And as you can see, there are things defending that level, but this is clearly the most significant level. And price is likely going to head to that region before heading higher. And because of that, we wanted to capture these longs until a certain area. Now, we cannot predict everything, right? But what we can predict is where price is going to head. We can't really predict if we're going to break this 6487 level and head to 6490, but we can predict that we might test one of these levels if we see sufficient confirmation down here. That's very accurate. But you can't really guess if these two levels are going to break because you don't know how participants will react at that certain area. You just have to go with what happens when price tests one area and participants. Where do you think that testing will result in? And you have to work with that. You can't predict how price will test at a level. Yeah, you can't really guess how price will react at a level, but what you can guess is how price will move after reacting to a level. So let's go here. Let's just go to the time we took our trade, which was around 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 EST or EET, as you can see here, or 9:25 actually. It was right around here, I bet. Alright, let me explain the context going into this trade, right? More than what we've done already. We've started moving up aggressively, and it seems that price wants to target these upper levels, right? The PPI highs. And essentially it shows the same here on NQ. Price is showing very aggressive buying momentum, retracing. We want to see if price can take out these PPI highs. Now what we see on the footprint chart is that this area where buyers were making volume turned into support areas, right? So we saw large buying aggression here, large buying aggression here. Selling was unable to break below that area, and actually, realistically, we should have extended this lower around there, but yeah, as you can see, selling was unable to break that area. Buying was very aggressive here. You see that buying delta region. Now we retraced to it once. Sellers got absorbed. Saw a big pop in of buyers. Now there's no buyer absorption there per se, but we came back down to this level. We saw aggressive selling start to come in. And you can see that right here. You see aggressive selling start to kick in once again. Right here. And let's see. And you start seeing buying icebergs come in and price starting to pump up. And when we saw this, and when we saw these sellers get absorbed here, we thought in our head, what stops price from using that as a proper retracement point to moving and trying to test this 6487 level once again? Not much really. And because of that, we entered in pretty late. We entered in around 6480. So right around this point where we could have likely entered maybe at 6479-ish, potentially around there. But not going to complain about it. Our original trade, or right when we entered, our stop loss was right here. Our take profit was up at 30 ticks. Right there. Putting us at almost a 2 risk reward. And as you can see here, there's no barrier there. And with this trades without barriers are kind of iffy, but when you see such strong confluences on the footprint chart like such, and you see and notice that it is a retracement on NQ as well, as you can see here, and it's also very close to VWAP and this 50% retracement level. There's a bunch of confluences aligning despite there not being a barrier, and because of that, it gave me enough conviction to actually enter in this trade. I'm still marking it as uh an A an A setup instead of an A plus because there's not a barrier. It's all the way A simply because fundamentals were used to succeed, and fundamentals have a very strong predictive power at times. But since there was no barrier there, it's not the best. But we saw this absorption here, and this was very strong confluence. And as you see, these buyers popped in very aggressively, going up all the way to our OG target. But we exited here as we saw price start to test the upper area, as you can see. Right around here, we see a big wall of passive liquidity, and at that same time, buyers broke above PPI highs on NQ. Since they broke above on here and price is testing big wall of sellers there, you might as well exit here to get out the trade at a good area that is logistically sound, and we did exactly that, and that's why we took a trade. Additionally, we did put our stop break even as we saw these aggressive buying come in. We pushed above the point of control level, as you can see this yellow line on Bookmap. And when you push above the point of control level and retrace to it and start aggressing once again, it's a pretty good sign you can put your stop break even. And our entry point was right at this point of control, so it worked out pretty nicely. Kept it one tick over that point of control to avoid slippage, and price never retraced back there, went straight to our take profit. So that's pretty good to hear. But other than that, that's pretty much all I have here for this trade. I'm not gonna analyze the rest of the day for the next 1 to 2 weeks. It's gonna be tomorrow and the week after likely, and then after that we should be able to get back to the regular schedule, I hope. But yeah, just please bear with me between this next 1.5 week, and that's all I have here for today. If you have any questions, feel free to join the completely free Discord server. Link is in the description down below. There's lots of resources that I truly believe you can get a thing or two out of. And, oh, I forgot to mention, everything is completely free. Additionally, if you want to check out the order flow tools that I'm using, including ads, charts, and the Bookmap live stream, those will be linked in the description as well. Both of them have excellent free compatibility, and I don't want you guys spending your pockets without trying everything out for free. You don't have to spend a dime. You don't have to put your credit card information or anything on anything, which I recommend, until you decide to get on the paid version, which you're not even required to do. There's a lot of free functionality in everything, and you should definitely take advantage of that to start integrating order flow into your strategy, even right now if you want to. But yeah, as always, do your own research, and I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow morning for pre-market and later tomorrow for market analysis, but hopefully I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.